Hey there, party people. It's time to cover the next leg of the Fate Grand Order manga, and the last time I'll have to cover both manga in the same video. Probably forever, because I am not confident that Mortalis Stella is reaching Solomon while I'm still making videos. I'm going to be so real about that. But that is neither here nor there, because after going through Singularity F and seeing how Mortalis Stella and Turas Realta adapted the story, I was actually very interested in seeing how Orleans would go. Early game story up until about London was pretty mid when playing the game, so it can really only go up from there. Like last time, we're going to be talking about Mortalis Stella first. As I said in the first video, the Mortalis version of Singularity F felt a little too faithful in my opinion, but that is not the case for Orleans. In fact, it is quite different. So overall, I will have more to discuss. The manga starts off with Mosh and Ritsuka immediately in the Singularity. No preamble or anything like that, just business. They start off with the usual time travel stuff. Try and figure out what is going on, get attacked, ride a horse, meet a dragon, you know the drill. So we are already in very different territory when Sen and Kohai meet up with Jeanne d'Arc Alter immediately. And that's not the only change that hits us in the face, because even the servants that are under Jalter's control have basically been cut in half. Here we only have Carmilla, Chevalier d'Eon, Sanson, Giles, and Fafnir if you want to count him. I kinda want to. But while facing down the barrel of a dragon, Mosh and Ritsuka are saved by Jeanne d'Arc Normal. In this moment, Ritsuka understandably validates Jalter's feelings of hatred and revenge, finding them understandable while still being opposed to her. This leans into Jormal being far less sure about her connection to Jalter than in the original. Sure, there were some doubts in the game, but here, Jeanne is very nearly convinced that Jalter is a part of her until towards the end. The arc just overall feels much more compelling. A little bit of fan service later, and we get more into Ritsuka's consistent arc of not wanting to be useless. Since he as a character cannot be an idle observer like in the game, the story takes more time to express his thoughts and actions. He can't just watch all this happen. Even if he's only human, he has to do something. It is a quality that we intrinsically know Ritsuka has while playing the game, but in this different medium, we get to see it manifest. It's by no means a groundbreaking arc for a character, especially this early on in the story, but it very much works, putting down the building blocks for the moment this guy has a fist fight at the end of everything. And then there's, of course, Mosh's story arc. Whereas Ritsuka has to come to terms with being only human, with only so much he can do, Mosh has to learn what it even means to be human. Her sheltered life has been utterly shattered with death, difficult choices, and finding out things are far from black and white. Hers is really the main story arc throughout all of the Singularities, so it's very important that they get it right. And Mortalis Stella does a good job with starting it. The way all three character story arcs interweave and build off of each other, learn from each other, this is the kind of thing I'm looking for. Orleans is the perfect start for this story when it's told in the way both of these manga tell it. Little bit of jumping ahead, Turas does follow pretty much these same story arcs for these characters, which I will get into later. But my point is that these are foundational stepping stones in telling a story about humanity. What humanity is, what it is capable of, and what comes of it. That is the kernel of all Fate stories when you get down to it. Being human. Now, with the story arcs in motion, we continue on. Ritsuka is injured by a soldier, and then we have a comedic Mosh freakout moment, though it doesn't really land for me. I don't know, just don't think this is the manga for it. Levity and jokes, yes, but this felt like it was meant to be more slapsticky than it was really pulling off. Gripes aside, we are then introduced to certified best girl Elizabeth Bathory. Oh, and Siegfried is there too. They protect our leads from Chevalier d'Eon, who is tweaking out something fierce thanks to Mad Enhancement. And that is the only reason why I am accepting that they can not only fight Siegfried so well, but also get the one-up on him. Still, he manages to beat them back into retreating, and the team moves on to a nearby village, meeting Marie Antoinette and Amadeus Mozart, who have befriended the people there. Oh, right, and also don't expect Kiyohime because she's not here. Sorry. That aside, I do love Marie dearly. She is a cutie with a heart of gold, and her near-lesbian romance with Jean is simply to die for. At the start of the next volume, the two speak about Jean Alter, and Marie admits that she has her own small bit of hatred, alluding to Marie Alter, which is tied to what they love. Hatred and love are hand in hand, but Marie tells Jean that she is not like her. This coincides with a conversation Mosh is having with Mozart, where he is explaining love and hatred, and how it is a human's duty to love something, and to choose that thing to love. Mosh, who thinks so clinically, is unable to fully wrap her head around it all, and Mozart tells her that she will learn from her experiences. She will grow from interacting with the world, and in turn, her growth will change the world. That is what it means to be human. To change and to be changed. To love and to hate. To make those choices. As long as you take a step forward, even if it's the wrong step, as long as it is progress, you are human. This even alludes to the Lost Belts in the future, as he calls anything that halts that progress as evil. Something that will cause humanity's doom. Then, the day after these conversations, the group goes to Orleans, but Marie, Amadeus, and Jean stay behind in the village, something Elizabeth takes exception to given her circumstances. Though, of course, this ends up being a bad idea, as the village is attacked by Chevalier d'Eon and Sanson. Marie uses her noble phantasm, the Crystal Palace, to protect the people and have them escape with Mozart and Jean, mostly. We do get really brutal in here as two of the villagers closest to Marie get caught up in this and beheaded by Sanson. Though ultimately, Marie is able to fend off both servants by simultaneously using her second noble phantasm, Guillotine Breaker, bringing herself to death's door as Jean Alter appears. Unable to fight, Marie still stands up to the Dragon Witch, calling out her legitimacy and facing her flames while still keeping a smile until the very end. Ritsuka's group had rushed back when they saw the palace appear, but were much too late when they returned. Marie's sacrifice, along with Ritsuka and Mosh's words, are what finally pushed Jean back to the path that she had chosen to walk back when she first heard God's voice, resolved to finally face down her supposed other half. And now is a good time to point out that this manga is allergic to discussing this. Whenever either Jean references it, they refer to it as my master's voice, rather than explicitly saying that it is the word of God, which is really weird to me. Like, what angle are you going at here with this? That aside, after a flashback which is actually the prologue to the Singularity in the game, we see Sanson is a wyvern now because of reasons, and Jalter is having her own existential crisis. She is unable to place the source of her hatred, the moment she chose to stand as a dragon witch, anything that came before the flames. Her conclusion is that there is no other reason than the flames. They are proof enough of her conviction and her existence. And with that, the face downs begin. Carmilla confronts Elizabeth. Despite being the same person, they cannot stand each other. Carmilla is the manifestation of the sins of Elizabeth Bathory, the truth of her existence, while Elizabeth herself is the manifestation of her guilt for those sins, the denial of her fate. This would ultimately end with Elizabeth's victory towards the end of the volume. I like the imagery of Carmilla reaching out to her, the person she, deep down, wishes that she could be but would never admit that. I have a whole video discussing Elizabeth as the most quintessential character in the Fate franchise. You should check it out before I start babbling about it here. But for the other fights, Siegfried is the one to confront Htlart while Jormal beelines it right to Gilles' caster along with Mosh and Ritsuka, revealing the whole plot that the Dragon Witch is not truly a part of Jean, as she never held any hatred in her heart. Instead, she is a manifestation of what Gilles wanted for his beloved saint to bring about divine retribution. And the final confrontation is between Amadeus and the distorted Sanson. Building towards the end, Jean the Dragon Witch is defeated. She laments her existence, questioning herself one final time. The flames that she wields, where they had come from, and in the end, she finds nothing, understanding that she truly never existed. The true Jean meets her own end. With the support of Mosh and Ritsuka, she uses her final noble phantasm, the flames that had taken her life, the acceptance of her fate, the sheer lack of animosity that she holds, consumes herself and Gilles, rectifying the Singularity and returning peace to France. And we wrap up the Mortalis Stella rendition with a build-up to going to Rome, and Ritsuka having a dream about Mosh's past. All in all, this was a fantastic story. The themes, which were there in the game, have always been fantastic, but the level of polish as well as grit this manga brings is outstanding. It gets quite intense, the emotions are palpable, it fully treats it like a drama, and Fate is usually best when it is a drama with action as opposed to an action with drama. But that is not to say that leaning into the typical shonen vibes is always a bad thing. Turas Realta gives its own fair showing. And since I already broke down most of the plot, I'm really only going to be discussing the differences between the two rather than giving another complete summary. Don't look at the time left.
It's a lie!
But those differences start immediately as we not only get a scene of Ritsuka having a vision of humanity's incineration, but also a very lengthy and involved explanation of the entire situation as opposed to just a few pages that Mortalis had. We get the status of Chaldea, complete with characters that actually have unique designs and based on how the story goes, have their own bits of personality that may mean they will be more meaningful side characters as opposed to just background filler. Romani also delivers a full and comprehensive breakdown on singularities, and Ritsuka, along with the audience, get to understand the full weight of the situation as it is placed squarely on his shoulders as the only remaining master. We even actually get to see a very human moment from Ritsuka that we are usually more seeing in the later part of the story. He talks about how he wanted to call his loved ones, tell them that he's safe, but he can't because they no longer exist. And so, even without resolve, he accepts the burden and shoulders it because if it's something that he can do, then he will. And that's a Fate Pro tag for you right there. Gave me chills. With that, the Operation Grand Order is underway. But we still aren't in Orleans yet because we have to explain how race shifting works and be casually transphobic towards Da Vinci. Fuck you very much, whoever's fault that is. Anyway, after a very lengthy bit of magical technobabble to explain how the time travel mechanics work, Mosh and Ritsuka are finally in Orleans. First major difference? All the characters that were in the game are actually in this. So we now have Atalanta, Gregorius, Martha, Phantom, Lancelot, Vlad, and Kyohime to deal with. Some more than others. I think Phantom has a panel. The first village attack is also more involved, and we also get a very special cameo instead of Htlart appearing right away, which later turns into an image that spawns so many strings of 6-digit numbers. But just like Mortalis, we got Jormal here, but this time she is not in existential crisis mode, fully committed to rejecting the Dragon Witch from the get, Though, interestingly, she seems to have a distinct connection to her counterpart, hearing words in her head. Not that it comes up again, which is weird, but ultimately it doesn't stop Htlart from destroying the town that they had just saved and killing Jean's mother. Also, the new confrontation with Htlart includes many servants, and I get to point out that thing I really like that Turas does: alternate outfits! We see Martha wearing a darker dress than normal as a sign of her corruption by mad enhancement. We saw a similar thing with Boudica Alter in the last volume, so I like that this trend is still going, and we will see more of this. This time, instead of being saved by Siegfried and Liz, it's Marie, Liz, Mozart, and Kiyohime to the rescue. When they get to camp later, we do start seeing some of Jean's existential crisis arc, though not as pronounced as Mortalis, as she talks with Ritsuka as he is going through his I'm only human arc, which is a slightly different flavor, which I greatly appreciate. I love it when people can tell the exact same story, but still make it feel like its own thing. It's amazing. But that conversation is cut short as we transition into a fight against the corrupted Martha. Upon her defeat, Martha regains herself and tells the group the location of a dragon slayer that they can team up with. Along the way, we get a little girl talk scene for reasons. I think Jean is somehow referencing Sieg in this scene. I don't know how, but yeah, it's just a scene for levity and to get some backstory, mainly for Marie and Kiyohime. That's really about it. Though it's also worth noting that Jean and Marie's relationship is downplayed heavily. Yes, they're still friends, but their connection does not feel as deep as in Mortalis. Though Ritsuka and Mosh have their own little moment together, reflecting on how this moment is fun, despite everything that's happening. Neither of them say it or think it in text, but the scene does emphasize how important this notion is. The next day, the group splits into two, and I am realizing now that I am explaining this plot more than I thought I was going to, but it really is that different from Mortalis. I am trying my best here. Anyway, the group of Jean, Marie, and Liz go off and find the Dragon Slayer Siegfried, who is under a curse, and Saint Gregorius. This is where Marie's sacrificial battle takes place, though it's now a full 1v1 against Sanson, and features a lot more of Mozart's thoughts and emotions heading to the location. In this version, Marie is able to defeat Sanson and hold off Htlart, protecting every single townsperson without a single casualty other than herself, winning the day and cementing hope and happiness to the people. Another result of this battle is that we got 2 new outfits for servants. Chevalier Leon falls into a deeper madness and is dripped the hell out, and the completely corrupted Sanson goes BDSM mode. It's a shame that we don't get a better look at Theon, because I want fan art of them like this. The little glimpses are so good. During the battle, Mosh actually takes Amadeus' lesson about making choices to heart, opting to go aid him when he is separated from the group by Sanson. Character growth is a beautiful thing, and together they put the executioner to rest. Meanwhile, Jean is fighting Lancelot, and Gregorius swoops in with every soldier in France, which to me seems insane. Like, logistically, they're humans going against servants, wyverns, and the dragon Fafnir. What are they going to do? Well, the answer is, apparently, they do enough, as they do actually take out a fair bit of wyverns. Viva la France, you scaly bitches! Also, we only get to see the end of Elizabeth's fight with Carmilla, but it has the same energy, showing more of Carmilla's thoughts on Elizabeth. How even though what this girl is saying is insane, impossible even, it's so dazzlingly bright. The light of the hope that she had long since lost. I will take any and every opportunity to sing the praises of Fate's Elizabeth Bathory, and you're going to have to deal with that. Anyway, Liz pushes Jean to confront her other self, as she had, while she, Mozart, and Gregorius take care of Lancelot. And so here, we actually get a battle of the Jeans that was skipped over in Mortalis, the true confrontation. Jean fully acknowledges the Dragon Witch as a wholly different person from Jeanne d'Arc, as she did not know the face of her own mother. So the true Jeanne d'Arc resolves to defeat her false shadow out of pity. And god damn, there are a lot of cool moments and discussions in this, but I'm on 8 pages of the script. This is legitimately a great action manga. The art style may not exactly be my favorite, but the choreography and the angles are so good. And then there's the writing. It has the right amount of build-up to these epic moments in the battle, mixed in with Ritsuka's introspection, wanting to help and save everyone, but being unable to due to the grim reality that is war. But his sentiments aren't put down or admonished. They are seen as good even though reality can't let them reign supreme. It's layered and nuanced, allowing Ritsuka to learn and grow without breaking core tenets of his character. All that I'm saying is that I am skipping a lot of things that I would love to talk about for hours. And while I do want to focus on making longer content, I do have to do my best to make something I feel is at least watchable. So I'm sorry if I skipped over talking about a moment you enjoy in this section of the manga, or any section of the manga, because it is very dense with moments. I sincerely recommend reading this for yourself to get the full experience. Same with Mortalis for that matter, as it is just as good, just in a different way. Also, why the hell does this not have an official translation? I think I asked that last time, but the more I read, the more it annoys me. Soapbox aside and back to the plot, we jump to the end of the battle against Fafnir, with Ritsuka pushing past his limits and putting everything on the line to power up Siegfried's noble phantasm. It is just so goddamn cool. It's what I was just talking about. Holy shit, I'm here for this. Htlart also gets defeated, but honestly, it's not as cool and much less feels-worthy than Mortalis, I will admit that. Though that just means it's time for the final confrontation against Gilles, which does end pretty much the same way, with Jeanne using her noble phantasm to destroy him, his monster, and herself. During the confrontation, Ritsuka tells Gilles that he understands his hatred and his sorrow. He doesn't think they're wrong, much like at the beginning of Mortalis when he was talking about Htltart's emotions. It's not wrong to want revenge, to want to destroy the world after everything, but that doesn't mean they won't stop him. Just because they can understand him, letting him do whatever he wants is what would be wrong. What he is doing is unforgivable. And that is such a layered and powerful sentiment that I feel is lost on a lot of people nowadays. Not being in the wrong does not automatically mean you are in the right. No matter the reasons, no matter how justified the actions may be, standing aside to let the world burn is not the right thing to do. There are always other options for a better tomorrow. Options that you likely do still have to fight and spill blood for, but nothing that you have to destroy for. There is a difference, and Ritsuka understands that in this moment. In the end, Jeanne and Gilles reconcile the most that they can. Gilles uses the Holy Grail to fulfill his true wish of saving Jeanne from the fires before he fades away, allowing her to say goodbye to Ritsuka and Mosh as the Singularity begins to fix itself. The manga then wraps up with a speed run of Septum, which is going to be a future video because that's only Mortalis Stella, also meaning that it won't be as long as this one. Hot damn, there was a lot to cover, and I didn't even cover all of it. I didn't even mention Saber Gilles, who is in both manga, but is more prominent in Turas. I honestly can't say which is better in my opinion. That's how different they feel. It ultimately comes down to preference. They both have the right amount of drama and human intrigue, though Mortalis feels tighter with it, having a smaller cast, and its action is more of a vehicle to deliver the drama more than it is to be bombastic fight scenes. Though it is still very well done in the visual department. Like I said before, Turas is very much a shonen manga, has that high action focus, but it also does take longer to tell the story, giving the room to have all of the action, drama, and levity at an even pace to accommodate the larger cast of characters, even if most of them don't got a lot going on. It also lends itself to having more silly moments in a less jarring fashion compared to the moment I pointed out in Mortalis. Ultimately, for telling the exact same story, it is amazing how wildly different these two are, while still maintaining the central cores and themes of the first Singularity. Reading these has given me a brand new appreciation for the story, which I never really disliked, but it did have that early FGO staleness to it. I am very much looking forward to reading Mortalis' take on Septim and Turas' take on Okeanis now, as the original versions were something. Volume 4 of Mortalis comes out the day before my birthday, so that's lovely timing, and I will continue to hope for a proper English translation of Turas. But in the meantime, if you've read these, what are your thoughts on the adaptation of Orleans? I'm very much interested to find out. Let me know in the comments below, and I'll be sure to catch you next time in the void. Later.